Hello everybody and welcome to my LEGO stop motion behind the scenes video. Here I will show you a little bit about how I made my recent stop motions. Now before we begin, I just wanted to mention I will be explaining these concepts fairly quickly, so if you would like for me to explain them even more in depth or even make a dedicated video about a specific topic, then be sure to comment down below and I'll put it high on my list. So jumping right into it, number 1. Jedi slices a big rock. Since the animation in this film is pretty straightforward, I want to mainly focus your attention on the set itself. Notice how big it looks? Well, that is because I used what they call forced perspective. And what that basically is putting little things in the background to act as big things that are far away. You see, if you glance at the background, you'll see big rock formations way off in the distance. But if you look closely, you'll see that they are actually small bricks giving the illusion of a giant set. But that's not all. I also put the base plates on cardboard boxes and other things, making sure to reserve a slightly taller box for the foreground and having shorter boxes for the background. I did this so I could separate the boxes from each other a bit to create a larger and more dynamic set. Next up, number 2, the Star Wars Gunship green screen test. Now while this film may have looked a bit cheesy, I'm still pretty proud of it since it was one of my first attempts at green screening. Now if you're not quite sure what green screening or chroma keying is, it's actually sort of simple. You see, all you have to do is put your main subject in front of a solid color, so that when you go to edit your footage, all you have to do is erase that certain color from your scene, and then you have a transparent background in which you can put just about anything you want. Now, while the idea is pretty simple, it is a little tricky to green screen. For instance, I had to play around with the lighting for quite some time in order to remove the shadow from the gunship off of the solid green color. And then when I brought it into the editor, there was quite a bit of green fuzz that was near the gunship. So what I had to do was go to the HSL color grading tool and desaturate the greens all the way so that it was no longer green fuzz, but rather gray fuzz, which turned out pretty good since it was flying through space. And as for the stand I used to hold the gunship up, all I had to do with that was take the color picker tool, click on the green background and start drawing over it so that it would key out the rest of the background. And now for number 3, the Clone Trooper vs. Droideka movie. This movie was difficult but fun to film since it had a lot of practical effects that I never attempted before, one of them being the blaster bolts. With the blaster bolts for the Clone Trooper, I started with this cool blue transparent crystal piece and shined a blue flashlight on it and took a picture. Now I didn't have a blue flashlight, so I improvised and took a regular flashlight and stuck this blue transparent piece to it using some putty. And then in the next frame, I simply attached a blue lightsaber blade to the end of the crystal and shined the flashlight as I took the picture. And then the next frame, I held the lightsaber with my hand out of frame while tracking it with the flashlight held by my other hand. And the next frame, I took the lightsaber out of frame, but still shining the flashlight where I figured the blaster bolt would have been. This helped with keeping the animation smooth and more realistic. And with the Droideka, I did the same exact thing, except now I used red for the blaster bolt instead of blue, and since I didn't have a red piece to fit perfectly on the flashlight like the blue piece, I improvised by joining a lot of red bricks together and puttying them to the flashlight. And as for the explosion, I started off with some red transparent bricks and then used a whole lot of cotton balls. Now one thing that I did for the explosion was as the explosion got more intense, I made the white balance warmer every frame so that it would look more realistic. And the last thing I wanted to talk about with this film is this super cool slow motion effect that I did when the Clone Trooper threw the detonator. This was achieved by rigging up a little stand and attaching the detonator to it and moving it very slowly and then masking the stand out in post. And now, last but not least, number 4, the Pizza Thief. Now this film was nothing more than just an experiment on how to make a stop motion look more cinematic. Now I really wanted to take some time on a set design because I was really focused on lighting, positioning and stuff like that to make the stop motion look really cool. So I knew that I wanted 2 windows behind the table to create that nice backlit look. And I also knew where the door would be, so I put some windows there and shined another light to create the key light. And since the lights were so soft, I really didn't need a fill light to complete the 3-point lighting setup. And I also knew that I wanted a lot of detail in this house, so I made the countertop with the sink to the left, which you really never saw in the background. And I also put in there a bookshelf, a flower pot, a cool looking shield, and this really cool picture of the guy that I took, printed out, and sticky tacked to the wall. All of these little things really helped to set the tone for the movie. And the last thing I want to talk about is this scene in the movie where the guy goes to grab the pizza. Now this may look like a simple shot, but here's what was going on behind the scenes. You see, I had to move the table up towards the camera in order to achieve that close-up overhead shot, and that stand for the table was built using some random bricks that was lying around, so it was pretty wobbly. And on top of that, I had to move the arm using some bricks that I puttied to to it and held it with my hands, so yeah. That was fun. And that about wraps it up. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment if you have any questions or want some in-depth tutorials about whatever. And I will take it into consideration for my next video. Have an awesome day, keep animating, and I will see you in the next video.